Yeah, so he's way up there. He's a jag. Yeah, he's a lawyer. So
It smells lovely. Oh, it's the
I know those yeah, those stargazer lilies are so beautiful. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Where the hell have you been?
I've been here. What are you talking about? What? I was here last week.
Oh, last week. Oh, last week I was sick as hell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The allergies this year are so
Ridiculous.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Now, did you retire? Or you were on the
No,
road to retirement, weren't you? Or
no, not for a while.
years now?
Yeah, years from now. So every day I just pray to God, give me the strength to stand and do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Especially in your line of work.
I was just talking to the officer in front because he's a sex offender registry officer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he works at the sex offender registry unit in Fort Worth.
Oh.
So I know him from work.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so we can talk shop and stuff.
Of course.
But yeah, I went to Alaska for a couple of weeks.
And?
It was beautiful. It was cold. I got COVID.
Oh, shit. I'm
And
so sorry.
you know what? Traveling nowadays, it's the pits.
Yeah.
It's just my mother. I went with my mom. She's 84, and she's very lively though.
Yeah.
And so and we flew from. She lives in Florida. She flew from Florida to Dallas, spent the night, then we flew from Dallas to Vancouver,
Uh-huh.
where we took the ship. And our flight to Vancouver, we had this young guy sitting in the middle of us who was coughing.
Of course he was, right?
And so I went to at one point I was like this.
I can only imagine.
I turned my back to him, and I was like, because I don't want to be on video where
That person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he just didn't get it. My mom was so oblivious.
Right.
By maybe 3 or 4 days later, she started coughing.
Right.
And then she ended up having to go see the ship's doctor. And then she was diagnosed with bronchitis. And so she had to spend quite a bit of time in the room,
Of course.
coughing her head off.
Right.
And you start getting worried because you're coughing.
Yes, then you're anathema when you start coughing
And
and
I'm like, put your mask on. And then I'm worried about me because I have to come back to work.
Right.
And she was it was a miserable time. And this
I'm
was
so
like
sorry.
for months.
Right. It should have been amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And then we got back on Saturday, and by Sunday I was like, oh my god, I'm sick. And I took a test.
And it was full on, huh?
Problems with him, it'll be
But you know what?
1, 2.
That's great.
Yeah,
You know.
it's amazing.
That's what I've heard. Absolutely. Would love to get up there.
We went at a time when it was still snow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody was still bundled up.
Yes. Right.
Because I think we were one of the first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect. That's nice.
But it's just
Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Alat, Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom. It is great to be back here with everybody coming in, and for those watching at home on this Shabbat, and with our new president Robert Simon here on the Bima, and John Sauvey, our director of music, and Hans Grimm, our pianist. It is just great to be here with you as people pick different summers, breaks and different times. Whoever's watching, wherever they're watching, this was Ice Cream Kiddush Shabbat in honor of dads and those who put up with them. So thank you, Mimi. So for those of you at home who are wondering, as people are filtering in, you can't see that if you're at home. It's because we gave them a choice of ice cream or getting into services on time, and ice cream won. So it's really good to have them here. For those of you who are coming in, know that I think we put more in, but our prayer books gravitated to the front. So if you find yourself in a seat without a prayer book, it's not a plot to get you to sit in the front row, but just to let you know that you can snoop around. There are more than enough prayer books, they're just all skewed in certain places. And we discovered that coming in, we'll get that fixed. So, Shabbat Shalom, it's the Shabbat of Shlach Lecha. It's also one of the first official Shabbats of summer. I know what you're saying, really, that's not for another week, but in Texas, I think this is the first official Shabbat of summer. Yeah. So keep cool and take care of yourself. In a few moments, a little later in our service, we are blessed to have Gretchen Johnson here. Gretchen's been with us in past years to sing, to help out with services. She is now a returning third-year rabbinic student who will be on her way to Cincinnati. And so Gretchen has some reflections for us, not only about the Torah portion, but also about how those relate to our time in Israel. And she'll be speaking about those a little later in our service. The part of the Torah I'm reading, because I didn't know Gretchen would be doing this till the other day, is the end of the Torah portion, the Maftir. And that Torah portion actually doesn't speak about the spies. It speaks about the fringes, although they tend not to be interpreted as the fringes on your talit, although they could be, but they tend to be interpreted as tzitzit katan, fringes on your clothing. And you will sometimes see Jews who will have fringes coming out of an undershirt that they wear under their clothes. You'll see others using them as well. And you'll hear in the Torah, when we get to it in a little while, the rule for the end of Shlach Lecha, the section that talks about the Jews going through the desert and being asked to put threads with blue in their tzitzit, in their clothing, on the corners of their garments. So the question is, what do tzitzit have to do with a bunch of spies going into the land? So let's backtrack for a moment to remind you of the stories of the spies. Moses asks 12 people to go into the land. 12 of them scout out Israel from a distance. It's not a great success rate. 10 come back and say, no way we can take this land. 2 say we can do it. The overwhelming majority win. And because they don't feel they're ready, Moses makes it clear, and God makes it clear, that they will be wandering for many, many more years. And so the story of the spies is really a story about confidence or about hope or about what you can see. I'm not going to say more because Gretchen's going to be talking about it. But then at the end, we come to this law of fringes. And for those of you who are less familiar, in the Torah there is blue on one of the fringes. You don't see that blue anymore. Some people add blue and it's nice, but you won't see blue on most of the fringes from those who wear these because it's unclear what the blue was and where that blue dye came from and which creature. So you don't see that. But you get this fringe of blue. And why blue? A lot of reasons are given. Some say it's a royal color and that our royalty is, that God is our royalty, if you were. That's one reason given, why blue. And why the fringes? Well, some people will say the fringes are a reminder of all the commandments. That we need reminders, and each one of these loops represents a way to connect to God. That's one reason given. Some people say, what some people will do is they will put all their fringes together, and it's a passage we don't really read in the Reformed prayer book. But that passage of Torah is read daily in the Orthodox. and conservative prayer book, and they will put their fringes together and hold them and kiss the tzitzit, and they'll see it as a symbol of bringing all of the Jews together. They'll think of it as all the diaspora coming together as one. In that definition, the tzitzit become the wholeness of the Jewish people, the sovereignty of the Jewish people, the completeness of the Jewish people. So it's another way to think about it. What is this connection to the spies? Well, some say that the connection is that the spies or the Jews lose their way. If I can put in a bad dad joke, it's appropriate that on Father's Day we're reading about a group of people who get lost in the desert and don't ask for directions. I couldn't resist. But you've got these Jews wandering, and some commentators suggest they've lost their way. And the reason the fringes are given there is to remind them to find their way. A connection to what is our mission again, getting to Israel, thinking about the mitzvot, knowing how to live it. The fringes serve as a reminder and a connection to a daily connection. Now you may say, well, we don't know a lot of Reformed Jews do this. Actually, there are a number of Reformed Jews who have rediscovered this tradition. You wouldn't know because probably they tuck their shirts in under their pockets. So you wouldn't know they would have tzitzit. The way if you were to see some Hasidic Jews, they make sure to leave it out to make a point. But the mitzvah isn't that you've got to see them hanging out. The mitzvah is to have this under your garments. One of our members shared with me that he not only has fringes, but he actually has a ring he wears that has blue and white and reminds him of the line of blue that keeps him focused on his mitzvot. Another friend who's a rabbi told me he has a tzitzit keychain. So I thought he had tzitzit, but it turns out he just has one keychain with one little set of fringes hanging out. And when I asked him why, he said, again, it focuses him on being a Jew all the times he forgets. So the fringes then keep us focused. And if I can leave you with a brief thought, and yes, truly brief because I'm checking the time, and I know we have another presentation. The fringes, the spies, the fringes, all of this is a reminder that we get into trouble when we lose our way. Now, I'm not saying you get into trouble. I'm saying the Jews in the Torah, they always get into trouble. Too much food, the wrong food. We forgot what you did for us. Send us back to Egypt. And for cucumbers, no less. It wasn't even like something great. The Jews are constantly forgetting their mission, wandering through the desert. And so I would say that early reformers, myself included, right, said, oh my gosh, I'm going to wear fringe on my clothing. But I would suggest that whether you consider the fringes or you come up with your own fringes, there's an opportunity to think about what will keep us focused on our mission. Whether it's fringes on our clothing, whether it's keeping some level of dietary law, whether it's taking on an observance that reminds you it's Shabbat, whether it's saying a blessing before you eat. We do it on Shabbat, but you could do it any day, and no one else even has to know. Whether it's wearing a Star of David, whether it is braiding challah. We seem to have quite a few members of the synagogue who just like braiding challah on Friday. It gets them focused on who and what they are. And so I think the story of the spies, and I think the fringes remind us that we are human and that we need reminders of our mission in very concrete ways. And so I invite you in this summer of joy and mindless reading and losing track of time if you're so lucky, to also think about what symbols you might adopt that reconnect you to your mission, whatever that may be as a Jew. We're going to turn to page 120, and as we prepare for Shabbat, we will be reminded of our mission as I'm going to ask Gretchen to come on up and to light the candles for us on this Shabbat. We continue with Ma Yafeh Hayom. If you don't know the words, there's only 5. How wonderful this Shabbat day is.
Shabbat Shalom. Again. Maya Ve'ayom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Ve'ayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom again. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
At the bottom of page 128, I know that Dr. Ross read this last week and he loves this. So let's read it together as we prepare for Shabbat. 128. The sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come gather to welcome the Sabbath, our Queen. Behold her descending, the holy, the blessed, and with her the angels of peace and of rest. Draw near, and hear above. Draw near, O Sabbath bride. Peace be to you, the angels of peace. Take a deep breath. Think about how you can ground yourself as this Shabbat comes. Maybe you're looking forward to a walk or a great meal or some of that challah you braided or getting a taste of challah someone else braided or preparing yourself for Father's Day, or if your father's no longer with you, taking some time to reflect on the teachings and lessons you were given. Take a moment just to be present. Page 144, the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Rabbi V'amarti rachirutei amich malchutei b'chayecho u'yomecho u'chayedecho be'Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kari Nimuru Amen Yesh Rabba Nevora Leolam Lo Me'amai Yitbara Yitrabach Yitbar Yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Kudusha Urichu Le'am Min Kol Birchata Yishirata Dushmerata V'ne'emata Dami Rom B'yama V'yimeru We rise on the next page for the Baruch Hu, remain standing through Shema. Page 148 together. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the season,
and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You
are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness, darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually to eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on eternity. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Please be seated as we continue on 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them on the door of your house. They are reminders to do all mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. As we turn to page 158 at this month and on this Shabbat, we reflect on the nature of freedom, on the journeys and struggles of all who have tried to tell their story and to be accepted and welcomed as free. And especially here in Fort Worth, we celebrate the continued struggle and journey and efforts to move toward freedom as we sing the oldest freedom song together.
Mi kamocha paelim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar Elon, O Sefele, Malechutecha, Raut Alecha, Bokei Hayam, Livnei Moshe uMiriam, Ze'eli anu v'amru, Adonai Yimloch, Adonai Yimloch, Le'olam va'ed.
V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Page 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter, soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleim, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, le'torotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, le'torotam berit olam. Beni uvein b'nei Yisrael, odi le'olam, odi le'olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, le'torotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, asa Adonai, et ha'shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, le'torotam berit olam. V'ayom hashvi, v'ayom hashvi, Shabbat v'yinafash, Shabbat v'yinafash. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael, et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, le'torotam berit olam.
Oh God, help us to find the words in the singing, the words in the silence, as we begin together and then continue on our own, however we wish. We ask, oh God, open our lips that our mouths may declare your praise. We rise on page 164. We begin together, and then you can continue as you wish on your own.
Adonai sepetaita utia hitnai latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Nikoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Kadosh, Mashita Kadosh, Kedoshim B'kol Yom Yehelu Chasela, Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. I rise in the presence of the infinite. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, breathing in blessings. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, in the presence of the infinite. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, breathing in blessing. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, in the presence of the infinite. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, breathing in blessings. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise.
As we prepare to take out the Torah to read from it, you can turn to page 364. And in addition, as we prepare to take the Torah from the Ark, I'm going to put Max Pell on the spot and ask him to carry the Torah, because he and Sauvey will get other have been part of our group who have been leading our weekday minyan Monday through Thursday for the last few weeks, and we are very, very indebted. And I know he can do it because he's been holding a baby nonstop for the last few weeks whenever he got a chance. Next week, of course, his son and daughter will get their Hebrew names, so he'll have his hands full. But I thought this week would be nice for you to carry the Torah through the congregation. So let's turn to page 364 and please rise.
Ki mitzion Torah, ki mitzion Torah, Adonai Yerushalayim, Sul Shaharim Rashechem, Sul Bichem Odam, V'Yavod Melech HaKavod, V'Yitzem Melech HaKavod, Adonai Tzvaot, Melech HaKavod,
In this scroll are the stories, the teachings, the guide to our people's history in the past and in the future.
Baruch Shenatan Torah,
This is an open invitation because we know there are people who love to be in front of the Torah and people who are scared to come to the Torah. I'm reading from the Torah. So if you'd like to see it, as always, if you'd like to come up for an aliyah, as always, maybe you have a birthday, maybe you have an anniversary, maybe you bought a house, I don't know if there's any occasion, I don't know, to have an aliyah. And if not, thank goodness we have our president here. And I'm going to let you in on a little tidbit, which if you want to follow in English, you can find this week's Torah reading on page 66. Now you could say, well, how could that be? I don't have a Torah commentary in front. Well, Numbers 15, 37 to 41, which is at the, no, wait, am I giving you the wrong? No, sorry, my mistake. Not 68. Now, actually, I'm glad I did that. Page 68. And the reason is in the Reform movement, in our early days of innovation, the Rabbi said, we don't believe this, we don't believe that, we do this, we do that. And then in recent years, Reform Jews said, maybe we do it, maybe we don't, I don't know, what should we do? We'll leave it up to you. So there are many sections in the New Reform Prayer Book where on one page there's one version, on another page there's another version. So, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe Lemor about tzitzit, maybe you say it, maybe you don't say it, maybe you have tzitzit, maybe you don't. So in educated choosing, or non-committal fashion, you find one version of the V'ahavta, the one you are much more comfortable with, I imagine, on page 66, and then you find the alternate version on page 68, and that's the Torah section I'll be reading from, so you can check up on me if you want and follow along in English. Our aliyah for the Torah can be found on page 300 and, everyone else is there ahead of me, 368. Excellent. Hello, hello, hello. Are you up just to see the Torah, or do you have a wonderful occasion also?
I'm alive.
You're just alive. Mazel tov. It's nice to have you up with Donna and Robert. I don't know, is this your first aliyah as president? I wasn't here last year.
Yes.
Mazel tov. Wonderful. And you've got a baby brother. And it's just good to have you guys. Any good news? Anything great that happened this week? Summer. You're like, what am I doing up here? You want to come closer and see the Torah? No? I'm going to read it. You don't have, I'm going to read it. Okay, it's not good enough. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to read from the Torah. You can, if you want to see it, thank you so much, Robert. You can look. If not, that's okay. You want to see the Torah?
Yeah,
No? Come around. I don't worry. I'll still be all right.
You need a boost? Need a boost?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Let's join in the Aliyah. The Aliyah is going up. So here we go.
Baruch Adonai Habarach, Baruch Adonai Habarach Elam Va'ed, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacharanu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, notein ha'torah.
Here we go. You can peek if you want, but you can also hide. Either one works. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem. And God spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, va'asulam tzitzit al kanfei bigdeihem. And you will make fringes on the edges of your clothing. It doesn't specify which clothing. L'dorotam, for the generations, or for all time. V'natnu, and you will make for them all tzitzit hakanaf p'til techela. You will make fringes with blue, whatever kind of blue that is, on the fringes. V'yaha lachem l'tzitzit, and you will put on those fringes uritem, and you will see them. Oto, you will see them. Uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai. And you will remember all of the mitzvot of God. Va'asitem otam, and you will do them. V'lo taturu, and you will not turn. The assumption is, if you look at these fringes, acharei levavchem va'acharei anechem. Your eyes and your heart and your eyes will not turn asher atem zonim acherim, towards strange gods or strange worship. Laman tizkaru, that you will remember va'asitem, and do et kol mitzvotai, all of my commandments, v'item, and you will kedoshim, so that you will be holy, le'elohim, for God, le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, I am Yud He Vav He, your God. Asher otzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, I brought you out from the land of Egypt. Liyot lachem le'elohim, to be your God. Ani Adonai Elohechem. We could have a great theological debate about what it means that I brought you out so that I will be your God. But we're not going to do it today. We're going to join in the Aliyah afterwards. So here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah te'emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. And before you guys go anyway, Mishaberach Avotenu Avram Yitzchak Yaakov Imotenu Sar Karach Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless you. Bless you with a good summer, with safe journeys, with moments of meeting, hopefully with lots of ice cream, and with patient parents, and with lots of free time. And health. Ice cream or health? Which one?
Ice cream.
Yeah, it's because they're young. So yes, ice cream. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Velcro. Cool.
Yeah, it kind of worked. Clearly needs a little bit of, and I'm just going to put this over here.
Sure.
And we'll put it back in a couple minutes.
Like we did inside that with Velcro.
Yeah. That's great. So we'll leave it right here. I know you'd offer to hold it, but I think if you do it once, you're going to be stuck with it for the next 2 years. So, and you guys can go down. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put this aside for a moment. And before we return to the Torah of the Ark, and before the Mishaberach, I'd like to ask Gretchen Johnston to come up and share with us some of her thoughts on the Torah portion and how it related to her time in Israel that she just returned from in the last few weeks.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. I have recently returned from a year-long adventure in Israel, and many people have asked me to talk about what is happening in the land. This situation reminds me of the story of the spies, which begins this week's Parsha, Sholach Lecha. Moses sent 12 spies to explore the future land of Israel and bring back a report. After a 40-day adventure in the land, the spies returned to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community. 10 of the spies reported that the inhabitants of the land were so gigantic that the Israelites looked like grasshoppers in comparison, and they were much too strong for the Israelites to defeat. As for the land itself, it was a terrible country that devoured its settlers. 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, said that the Israelites would surely defeat the inhabitants of the land, since God was on their side. As for the land itself, it was an exceedingly good land, flowing with milk and honey. The whole Israelite community started yelling and crying. The leaders of the community, Moses and Aaron, fell on their faces before the congregation. Joshua and Caleb made another stirring Zionist speech, and the congregation started picking up rocks to throw at them. God appeared and threatened to annihilate the people of Israel and start over. Moses talked God out of that plan, but the whole Israelite community was doomed to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. This story may help to illustrate why American Jews are sometimes cautious when it comes to talking about Israel. After all, doing this the wrong way could set the whole Jewish community back for 40 years. Hopefully, if we look at what went wrong in this story, we can avoid making the same mistakes. The first thing I noticed was that 12 spies brought back only 2 reports. 12 Jews, 2 opinions? There must be something wrong with that math. Both reports were very unnuanced. Either Israel was a terrible country that devoured its settlers, or it was an exceedingly good land flowing with milk and honey. My experience is that Israel is a real country inhabited by a diverse population. During the many field trips I took with my class, I was amazed by the beauty of the land, the variety of the art, music, and food, and the rich history and archaeology of Israel. While I was enjoying these very privileged experiences, I also learned that many of these trips were taking me across the Green Line. I learned that some harmless-sounding projects the U.S. Jewish community has been encouraged to donate to, like archaeological research or even planting trees, have facilitated the removal of Palestinians and Bedouins from lands that Israelis want for themselves. I have also met good people who are trying to make things better. For example, Rabbis for Human Rights, who help Palestinians in the West Bank to harvest their olives while hopefully deterring violent attacks by Israeli settlers. Hebrew Union College is also trying to make things better with the Teachers Lounge program that brings together Arab and Israeli teachers so they can build relationships and better understand each other's lives. Israel offers a bewildering range of Jewish congregations and worship experiences. Most of the restaurants in Jerusalem were kosher, which meant I had a ridiculous choice of vegetarian options at almost every meal. On Yom Kippur, there were no cars in the street except for emergency vehicles, and it was amazing to see children dressed in white riding bicycles and scooters in the middle of the street. But then when I walked home on Simchat Torah, the streets were blocked by all-male crowds singing and dancing with the Torah, and I felt very uncomfortable walking through the crowds. I realized I had mixed feelings about Judaism being the dominant religion in Israel, especially considering how much influence ultra-Orthodox Jews have over Israeli laws. The lack of separation between religion and state in Israel, combined with Orthodox rules about who is a Jew, mean that I could not marry a Jew or be buried in a Jewish cemetery in the state of Israel. During the year in Israel, I often felt I was expected to shrug off issues like this, or the fact that from the women's section of the Belz Yeshiva, we could not even see the lavishly decorated sanctuary where the men pray. However, we also met many Orthodox Jews who were working to make things better within their community. We met a woman who serves as the spiritual leader of her Orthodox synagogue, even though the rules of her religion currently do not allow her to read the Torah. We met the principal of a religious Jewish high school who is finding ways to give girls a more equal religious education and creating a safe and respectful space for LGBTQ teens. We also learned that in 2005, a Jewish religious fanatic stabbed 3 participants in the Jerusalem March for Pride and Tolerance. A few weeks after being released from jail in 2015, he returned to the March for Pride and Tolerance and murdered a 16-year-old girl. In 2006, current Israeli Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, declared a holy war against participants in the march. But we also met LGBTQ Jews from a religious background who work in the LGBTQ Community Health and Advocacy Center, Jerusalem Open House, or write books or perform songs or make movies about their efforts to reconcile their intersecting identities. When the Israelite community heard the spies' report in Shalachaka, they decided Israel was terrible and started yelling and crying without asking for more information. If we conclude that Israel is irredeemably awful, we will feel justified in giving up. And if we conclude that Israel is perfect, there will be no need to do any work. My experience is that it is never that easy. In every aspect of life in Israel, there are amazing things, there are serious problems, and there are good people who are working hard to make things better. Instead of crying and giving up or yelling Zionist slogans, we should appreciate the good things about Israel and ask questions until we understand the problems. Then we should keep looking until we find the Israelis who are part of the solution and support them. As for Moses and Aaron, lying face down in front of a panicking congregation is not the effective leadership the Jewish community needs. Jewish leaders in the U.S. are sometimes afraid that criticism of Israel will lead to dire consequences. If not the wrath of God, then maybe the wrath of the temple board or a split within the community. If the illusion that we all agree comes at the cost of disengaging from Israel, maybe it's okay to let the congregation express some differing opinions. After all, Israelis do that all the time. If we are willing to risk talking and possibly arguing about Israel, maybe this time it will take less than 40 years to get where we are going. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing some of your experiences and challenging us and challenging the American Jewish community to move out of one extreme and another and have conversations. We can all learn from that. We all have a lot to gain. Gretchen will be here if you want to ask her questions or talk to her about Israel. And I want to use this moment to mention that Michael Orbach also just came back from an adult version of March of the Living, and I didn't know there was a lot of that. I know it's a very popular, very well-attended teen and young adult group, and he is here, and I'm putting him on the spot. He's like, no, don't point me out. And he's promised me that on a future Friday I'll talk about that, but you can also ask him about his recent experience, both in Europe and in Israel. There are many, many opportunities for us to learn and gain from one another. And so we offer a prayer. Our prayer is certainly for those in Israel, and certainly for those in America, and certainly for all those who are broken, and for all for whom we hope to have the ability to learn and to listen and to grow. And in addition, we mention the names of those who are physically ill or spiritually ill. And we mention Sharna Blumberg and Charlotte Fiwas, Allison Getz, Christopher Long, Judy Cohen, Robert Klein, Idalis Rivera, Stacy Silva, Anita Kabuti, Karen Delavan, Jeannie Rosenblum, William Westerman, Ann Westerman, Lisa Bond, Barbara Leffer, Karen Silverberg, Karen Kaplan, Aaron Goodman, Judy B. Greenman, Susie Kornblit, Max Simonik, Harry Labovitz, Carol Ruth Brooksaler Alkak, Susan Flappin, Daniela Pell, and Suzanne Slatkin, and any names you might wish to mention of those in need of healing.
Paula Geyer, Simi Welch.
John Stein.
Thank you. Page 371. May they find strength and healing and wholeness in time.
Mikor
We rise, we turn to page 374 as we prepare to return the Torah to the ark. Whichever one you rather.
ותפוד התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. אבי אדוני ויד משה. הודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם כן לעמו, תהילה לך חסידה, לפני ישראל המקרו. הללויה, הללויה, הללויה.
Turn to page 586, and we continue facing the ark for Aleinu.
משפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו טהר וגורלנו ככל המונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני
Please be seated. Before we turn to Kaddish and hearing the names of those we remember, a creative interpretation by Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg based on the Traveler's Prayer, a reading that could serve as a prayer for any of us as we go on our journeys, and also a prayer for all of us who remember. A prayer for the journey. We could say it every day when we first leave the soft warmth of our beds and don't know for sure if we'll return at night. When we get into trains, planes, automobiles, and put our lives in the hands of many strangers, or when we leave our homes for a day, a week, a month, or more. Will we return to a peaceful home, untouched by fire, flood, or crime? How will our travels change us? What gives us the courage to go through the door? A prayer for the journey we take in this fragile vessel of flesh. A finite number of years, and we will reach the unknown where it all began. Every life, every day, every hour is a journey. In the travel is the discovery, the wisdom, the joy. Every life, every day, every hour is a journey. In the travel is the reward, the peace, the blessing. On this Shabbat, and if you are comfortable doing so, it is our custom to rise when you hear the name of one you are remembering. We remember in Shloshim Dr. Basil Bernstein and Edith Yendis. We also mention the art sites, the anniversaries of their deaths observed this week of Abraham Anelik, Leah Baum, Leon Benkoff, Rose Nolman Bilski, R.V. Cooper, Simon Cy Davidson, Abe Davis, Eliezer Les Deutsch, Jasonda Fox, Ellie Lewis Gilbert, Rose Haas Gilbert, Saul Haber, Rebecca Lind Hurwitz, Sam Kahn, Paula Kelfer, Jacob Klaar, Sadie Lefkowitz, Louis Lesnick, Julius Lurie, Lillian Mass, Ellen Mack, Herman Nass, Herman Parker, Edgar Parvey, Bernice Rapfogel, Eva Rosenberg, Jerome Selig, Jan Stanton, Arthur Skip Orbach, Lillian Weiner, Fanny Winterman Wolf, Florence Sofer Jacobs. As we remember them and others we may be remembering this Shabbat, we rise and offer strength to all who are in mourning. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabban, bi'alma dirach malchutei, v'yechon v'yomecho, v'yechon Beit Yisrael, v'yilal v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'me'onai, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitrom v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yital shmei d'kudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol b'chata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechmata, damiram b'yamal v'imru. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya, v'chaim alinu v'yalchol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alinu v'yalchol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam levracha, may all of them be remembered for blessing. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. If you wish to turn to page 345 and join with us, a prayer for the journey, whatever your journeys this summer.
May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace.
649.
Be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. The words are Amen. Amen. May this be our blessing. Sheltered by the wings of peace, may we be kept in safety in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Amen.
We turn to page 123 for the blessing over wine and challah. And if any of our younger members want to come up for the motzi, and you can come up for the kiddush as well. I know at least one person who really nails this kiddush, so it's great. Maybe two. Page 123, we join together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei b'riat ha'afen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nishanu mitzvoto v'ratzavanu, v'shamar kodsho v'ahavat v'ratzon himanu, zikaron l'maaseh bereshit, kilu yom tefila l'midra'e kodesh, zeh tziyad Mitzrayim, ki banu b'harta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodeshecha le'ahavat u'razon yinchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ashavat.
And we're going to continue with the motzi, and you guys can all grab along. I'll hold the tray. You can grab the challah. We'll join together. Or you can with me.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Shabbat shalom. Grab on a piece. Grab a piece if you want some. That's your name. Just grab it. You can share with your parents or not. I don't know. Go for it. You should have the next piece too. There you go. You know what you can do? You can go to, you don't want to walk on some classes, but you should have some too. Thank you, Robert. Oh, yes. Okay, I'll give it to you too, but I'm not. No, I got it. But I'm happy. I'll give it to you more. But I'm not.
Well, hello, good sir.